KJA Global Channel. The Political System and Me. Series 2, How the System Enters Everyday Life. E07, My Mind, Education, and Identity. Before a nation controls your body, it tries to control your mind. Because the body can resist for a moment, but the mind, once shaped, can obey for a lifetime. I used to believe education was simply the road to a better job. I believed school was where you learn things: math, language, history, science. I believed identity was something natural: your name, your family, your culture, your faith, your ethnicity, your accent, the stories you grew up hearing. Education is not only knowledge, it is formation. Before this becomes an institutional question, it becomes a human experience. Explain how curriculum, language, pedagogy, and school governance shape identity, critical thinking, belonging, and citizenship. Identity is not only heritage, it is design. A political system does not merely govern territory, it governs meaning. It governs what people are allowed to believe about themselves, about others, about history, about power, about the future. And once you understand that, you realize the most strategic battle in any revolution is not fought first with weapons. It is fought in classrooms, in textbooks, in songs, in prayers, in media narratives, and in the quiet sentences parents speak to children when they warn them to stay safe. A nation is not primarily its borders. The system reveal is education/identity formation. The mind is the true nation. Education either makes citizens or manufactures subjects. The mind is the true nation. Education either makes citizens or manufactures subjects. In plain language, the hidden mechanism is education, identity formation. Identity is partly the story the system tells you about who you are, and that story can be edited. Families carry a hidden curriculum of fear that can quietly train obedience before school ever does. This episode is about that battlefield, the mind, and how political systems shape education and identity to either produce free citizens or obedient subjects. That is why any serious political system, whether just or unjust, invests deeply in shaping minds. A regime can survive temporary protests, but it cannot survive a population that thinks independently, asks deep questions, and understands systems. It holds memory. It carries values. It interprets truth. It defines dignity. A political system that fails to win the mind must rely on violence. And violence is unstable. Violence breeds enemies. Violence is expensive. Education and narrative control. Every education system is designed, whether intentionally or by neglect, to produce a certain kind of human being. Citizen-making education. The analytical center of this episode is the rights chain. Right or legitimate interest, law or constitutional rule, responsible institution, complaint or review, hearing and evidence, remedy, enforcement. Each arrow asks a different accountability question: who authorized the decision, who had the duty to act, what record should exist, and what institution can correct failure? A broken outcome may begin far upstream. The visible harm can come from an unjust rule, an unfunded institution, a hidden record, a captured oversight body, or a remedy that exists only on paper. The chain prevents us from reducing a system failure to one personality. It identifies the point where law, capacity, evidence, oversight, or enforcement stopped working. When citizens and professionals can locate that break, criticism becomes more accurate and reform becomes more practical. For this episode, the principal mechanism is education/identity formation. The production graphic must make every link readable on a phone screen and must label country-specific or proposed arrangements honestly. Under dictatorship, mind, education, and identity is shaped primarily by concentrated command. Information is restricted, institutions answer upward, and challenge may carry personal risk. In a fragile democracy, formal rules may exist while patronage, unequal capacity, corruption, politicization, or weak enforcement makes protection inconsistent. In a functioning federal democracy, authority is constitutionally distributed, common rights remain enforceable, and more than one institution can question, review, or correct harmful power. Comparison is a method of judgment, not a slogan or ranking exercise. The viewer should compare who decides, how authority was obtained, whether records are public, whether affected people participate, and whether transparent governance and complaint mechanisms is available in practice. The democratic design must survive weak leaders, political disagreement, and changes of government. The minimum guardrails are: 1. Truthful and inclusive curriculum. 2. Teacher professionalism and academic freedom. 3. Critical thinking and media literacy. 4. Safe and non-discriminatory learning. 5. Transparent governance and complaint mechanisms. These safeguards work as a system. A published rule without an independent reviewer can become theater, oversight without records cannot see, participation without safety can expose people, and a remedy without enforcement does not repair the harm. Global relevance. The institutional test for mind, education, and identity applies across political labels: who decides, what limits power, what information is public, who participates, and whether a real correction or remedy exists. Myanmar relevance. Use ordinary lived experience only where it clarifies the mechanism. Avoid turning Myanmar into dramatic background or implying that one national experience fits every society. Here is the civic practice for this episode. See and ask. Recall what your own schooling trained you to do: obey or question, memorize or understand. Verify. Examine one curriculum, textbook passage, school policy, language rule, or teacher standard. Act. Compare one curriculum or school rule with a truth, dignity, inclusion, and critical thinking test. Review. Record whether you can name the responsible institution, evidence, safeguard or remedy, and one safe next step. The measure of success is not visibility but whether the viewer can identify evidence, responsibility, a safeguard, and the safest next action. And the true beginning of system change is not simply anger. It is awakening. Awakening to the truth that education is not just a tool for employment. It is the furnace where nations forge their citizens, or manufacture their obedience. In the next chapter, we will bring this awakening into the arena where most people feel the system every day: work, income, and economic freedom, because the political system does not only shape minds in classrooms, it shapes survival in markets and workplaces. The principle to carry forward is this: the mind is the true nation. Education either makes citizens or manufactures subjects. Ask yourself, what part of education, identity, and the formation of the mind have I treated as normal even though it should be visible, answerable, and correctable? Freedom survives when responsibility becomes habit. In the next episode, we continue with my work, income, and economic freedom. The system shapes our lives. Our participation shapes the system. Subscribe, learn, participate, shape the future. KJA, knowledge justifies authority.